always, it's a privilege to be sharing with you. So much talk has been done about passing on our faith to our children, right? To the next generation. And so tonight, I'd like to speak on after our parents or after we have received the faith from our parents. Okay, most of us here are first-generation Christians. How many of us here are first-generation Christians? Meaning to say you were not raised in a Christian home. Raise your hand. So most of us, right? So nevertheless, we consider ourselves now as godly. We have received the faith. So where do we go from there, being the children? So what I want to speak on tonight is as children, because passing on the faith, the responsibility rests on whom? The parents. So now, as children, to whom the faith has been passed on, what are our responsibilities? Okay, a lot of us. Okay, some of us here are parents, right? But but one thing is for sure, all of us here are children of somebody. Okay? And in the fifth commandment that was given by the Lord through Moses, what's the fifth commandment? Honor what? Oh, let's open our Bibles, okay? Let's open our Bibles to Exodus chapter what? 20. Okay. Exodus chapter 20. Okay. Honor your father, okay? Honor your father and mother so that, okay, honor your father and, okay, it's Deuteronomy 6. I took it from Deuteronomy 6, verse 1 to 2. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you, to observe in the land that you possess, so that you and your children and their children after them. So who is the children after them? Our grandchildren, okay? So that you and your children and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, so that you may enjoy long life. So in this verse, how many generations are presented here? Okay, the parents, the children, and the grandchildren. There has been so much talk about generation gap and generations. In the Bible, a generation is considered like a 20-year span. That's one generation. Okay? And so a generation actually is a group of people, okay, who were born in the same time range, that's a generation, and who was raised in the same place. Okay? Why does it have to be in the same place? Because if you notice, in the Philippines, even though two people are born in 1970, okay, but if the other person is from Manila, right? But the other person is from the Pramdi, okay, from the province. Even though they're of the same generation, their characteristics are not the same, right? Even their lifestyles are not the same. The one in the city, what kind of characteristics or lifestyle do city people? How many of us here are city people? Born in Manila, Metro Manila, raised in Metro Manila. Or born in Chicago, raised in Chicago. Raise your hand. Okay, we're city people, right? And how many of us here are how's that? The country mouse, country born, or from the province? Okay, actually suburban is not so. Suburban is between urban and rural or country. How many here are raised and born in the province, or in rural areas or country areas in the States? I know Sister Annie is one, okay? Do you notice your characteristic is so different from a Manila girl to a what? To a Guimaras girl. Okay? But of course, Sister Evelyn is no longer acting like a Guimaras girl. Okay? She's not that simple anymore. Okay? In the province, their lifestyle is what? Just to be able to eat, right? Just to be able to play. I can only think of my generation. Okay? In short, a generation, like in the Bible, the generation of the first set of people who left Egypt for the promised land, who will be the next generation? Because that generation that left Egypt, everybody was... What happened to the first generation that left Egypt? They all died, okay? And then the second generation was the children. They were the ones who were able to enter the promised land. Okay, so for us to be able to see, because sometimes I wonder why my children are acting this way and I didn't act the way my children used to act. Okay? And so we already have defined the generation is people from the same era, born from the same year, in the same place. Okay? Okay, let's do a backgrounder. What's the first generation that they have established is called the greatest generation. Who are they? Do you know that? Who are considered part of the greatest generation? If you are born between 1901 and 1924, that's before the war. Okay? So why is it called the greatest generation? It's called the greatest generation because they survived the Great Depression and World War II. And in spite of that, they're very good, they're very hardworking, they're very good role models, okay? And can you imagine being born in those days? Okay, 1901 to 1924. What is it that they don't have that we have? Huh? Technology, okay? No cell phones, no airplanes, okay? What? No airplanes, no telephones, no TV. Okay? That's why those people, their lifestyles must be so simple, right? That's why they're the greatest generation. Okay? They had more time to read their Bible because there's no TV, there's no social media, there's no Facebook. Okay? I'm relating this because can you imagine, Israel belonged to a generation where there was no TV, no airplanes, no telephones, and yet a lot of times they were forsaking the Lord. Right? People are people. Okay. What's the next generation? Oh, after that greatest generation is called the... Anybody? The what? They're the traditionalists or the silent generation. Okay? Why are they called like that? They were born, some of you, I think, are born in this era, okay? Wala. Mga nasa Sunday yung mga nandito. Between 1925 to 1945. Meron ba dito? Pastor Mars, kasama ka ba doon? Pastor Mars, hindi ko pa kasama doon? Okay, si Sister Delia nakakaalam. Kasama ba si Pastor Mars doon, Sister Delia? Hindi pa naman. Okay. Why? During those days, always remember, during those times, there's no feminist movement yet. So in those days, si nanay kasama doon, Sister Yoli, di ba? In those days, moms were stay-at-home moms. And it was the dads who brought home the bacon. And during those days, people were very loyal to their work. Okay, unlike now, you will see young people at the age of 30, they have changed 10 jobs already. Okay, in those days, they were loyal to the job, okay? And then, the children who grew up during those times were very hardworking. Okay, and they were, what do you think were they called silent generation? Because they were very quiet. You can see them, but you cannot hear them. It's part of the next generation where children are told what to do and you don't say anything to your parents, you just follow. Sister Annie, correct? Okay. But you're not yet part of that generation. Okay. Huh? Not yet. Okay? And they were focused on um, um, they were focused on following what is the norm of society. Meaning to say, it rarely you will find perverts. Or if there were any, tago. That's why in those days, homosexuality, living together, okay, pregnancy without marriage, immorality is not exposed if ever there was. Okay? Now it's so different. Now there's just no shame. Okay? Then the next generation will be our generation, okay? Okay, the baby boomers, okay? So they were born between 1946 and, okay, the tail end is 1964. Okay, Jessica, wala ka pa doon. Okay? Cut off. The cut off is me. Okay? So here, the society was very structured. And you know what? In those days, the households were very disciplined. How many of you were born 1964 going back? Raise your hand. Be proud. You were raised in a very disciplined household. True or false? Right? Our parents, when they tell you to do something, no comment, just do it. Okay? Para tayong nasa military noon. Okay? Very, very disciplined and very structured. Okay? That generation was idealistic, okay, and very uncynical. Okay? What happened during that generation? What did you have? Okay? That generation, you had the Cold War, 1964, okay, all the way to 64, okay? First term of Kennedy. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. Di ba? I think 63. Okay? Hindi pa ako buhay nun, kaya history na lang. Okay? And then, the characteristics, it says here, okay? The characteristics are independence, responsibility, and maturity. That's why those up to 1964, di ba, Sister Delia, independent, very responsible, right? Sister Yoli, agree? Brother Robert, mature? Okay. Nagtataas ng bangko. Okay, Joyce, kasama tayo doon, di ba? Hindi ka ba kasama doon? Okay. Okay. And so, that's why these people, okay, di ba, Sister Olive, kasama tayo doon? Okay. They're able to make up their own minds and determine what is valuable to us. We know what is important, okay? And then, of course, we always abide by the rules, and they're confident, okay? And one of the things that we want is to be respected, right? And then respect and appreciation. And as parents, because we're the parents now, children, that is what your parents want. Appreciation and respect. How do you show it? By listening to us, okay? Because we're always very opinionated, okay? We're willing to share our opinions. People born in those years, we always have an opinion for almost everything or anything, okay? And then and you know, this generation, okay, we make our decisions based on what is available to us. If your money is just $100, you will only spend maximum of $100. That's why the generations after that, they will make decisions based on the resources that is not available. Sabi ni Jessica, fantasy. Okay? That's why the next succeeding generations are so much in debt, credit card debt. Okay? That's why don't be surprised, children, why older parents are so tight-fisted. Okay? because they were taught by their parents to make decisions based on what is available, not on what will be available or not what they hope to come. Okay? Very competitive, and they were always work hard to achieve success. Okay? We see these characteristics in the Bible. Okay? And so, however, there are two things here. Okay? We have the leading baby boomers, the first part of the baby boomers who went through the Vietnam War. Okay? Anybody here who was recruited in the Vietnam War? Did you serve, Brother Robert, in the Vietnam War? Okay. Did you ditch it? You got exempted? Oh, okay. And then the late baby boomer are the rock and rollers, the part of Elvis. Right, Sister Celia? Okay. And so, during those days, this was the first time wherein two-income households were introduced. Okay? Because when the men went to war, the women started working. And so even though the men has returned, the women still wanted to work. And because of that, there was a high incidence of, what do you think happens when a couple both work, man and woman? What is the tendency to happen to the relationship? Divorce. That's why that's the first generation of divorce. Okay? There were divorce in the past, but this one is really like, boom, divorce started becoming common. Okay? And that's why it became to be accepted as normal. Okay? Or a tolerable reality. Okay? And then, because of that, they tolerated divorce. It was also the first tolerant generation. Okay? Now, what's the next generation? Okay, Generation X. If you were born from 65 to 76. Masyado na malayo, 86. 76. Okay? And some say up to 1980. Okay? Why is it X? Okay? These kids, they are street smart because their parents are not around. Okay? But isolated. Why? They are smart, they were left on their own because their parents are either career-driven, right? How many of us here grew up with your parents both working? Raise your hand. Okay. So your parents were, you were left to what? Okay, take care of yourself. Okay? That's why there we see a surge of entrepreneurship, but then at the same time, this generation is very selfish. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. 65 to, okay, selfish. Okay. Actually, that generation covers most of our people here who are, this generation is what? In their 50s, right? And in their 40s. Okay? And then they have held at least 7 jobs in their lifetime. Okay? Pang ilan na yung trabaho nyo? Okay? Because in those older generations, they only had a job or 2 in their lifetime. Okay? But during those days, okay, there were no computers yet. Okay? Pre-1970s. If there were, it's in the military. Okay? And so, people of this generation are marrying late because why? People started living in. You see the corruption of morality. Why did they start to live in? Because their parents were at home. So children started doing sinful things, premarital sex and everything. And so they don't get married, they live in. Okay? Okay. Even if ever they marry, they're quick to divorce. That's why that's the generation of a lot of single parents. Single parenthood started sprouting up. Okay? Also, that 80s generation, pre-80s generation, that's when the MTV started. Right? You remember in college, how many of you are in the 50s and above? Right? Nag-umpisa yung MTV? Right? Okay, Spando Ballet, di ba? We watch it. And then, this generation, they're into labels and brand names. Okay? Materialism is there. And then, because they're the ones like in the commercial, it's my money and I want it now. You remember the TV ad? J.J. Wentworth. Okay. It's my toy and I want it now. So now they're much into credit card debt. Okay? And also this generation, their motto is, what's in it for me? That's why they're very selfish. Okay? And these people are the people who are starting to be digitalized because technology was starting there. Okay? And then what's the next generation? Okay, Y or how are we called? How are you called? Millennials. Okay, 1977 to 1995. Raise your hand if you were born in that generation. Okay, now tell me if it's correct. Okay? You know, the cutoff year 1995 is the year Joseph was born. That's why 4 of my kids are in the next generation, Z generation. Okay? These are the children who doesn't want to grow up. Okay? They don't want to grow up. They still have their toys. That's why they're called Peter Pan generation because they refuse to grow up. Okay? They want to delay steps to being an adult. Okay? Like buying a house. Actually, most of them cannot buy a house, even though if they want to because of student debt. Okay? Because they prolonged studying, they prolonged graduating, so they're in so much student debt. Okay? That's why, guys, look at how things work out. If you keep borrowing money for education and you don't use it wisely, that's part of this generation. Okay? They don't want a mortgage. They have no career plans. Whatever work is available, they just go for it. Okay? That's why we have so much opportunity to reach out to this generation. Okay? No vision, no marriage, and no children is what they want. That's why this generation, they have a tendency to living with their parents longer. Because they have no housing. They have no plans for the future. Okay? You see how corrupt generation after generation is becoming? Where is it in the Bible where it says wickedness shall increase? Okay. Where is it in the Bible? New Testament. Okay. And so here, they're so used to technology, you know? Like you guys in this generation, you always price check on using when you have to buy something, what do you do right away? You get your phone right away and you price check everything. Okay? And then you're so much into, that's why I was saying, oh my, Joseph is into here. So much is into wellness. They devote so much time and money into health and into looking good. Diet and exercise. Okay? You're smiling. Okay? Next. Then you have unlimited access to information because of technology. That's why you tend to be assertive and you have strong views. Okay? Because you think everything has an answer through Google. Okay? I saw a shirt that said, who's the most wisest person? Who's the wisest? That's a question. You know what the answer was? Google, because he knows everything. Okay? Of course, that's ungodly. Okay? And then they have less loyalty to the brands that they have. Okay? The next generation will be what generation? How do you call the next generation? X, Y? Of course, the Z generation. Okay. Generation Z, born 1996 all the way to till now. So that's the young people. Okay? 4 of my kids from John all the way to Joel is part of the Z generation and all the other young people here. Okay? They cannot imagine how 911, how it is to live during 911 because although they know it from history, they never experienced 911. Okay? And then they don't know how it is to live without cell phones and computers. Right? Guys, how many of raise your hand if you were born in that generation? Z generation. Okay. How would you like to live a life without your cell phone and your laptop and your computer? Huh? This generation, they cannot live without it. They can live without their parents, but they cannot live without their cell phone or their laptop. Okay? They're called technoholics, and they're so dependent on IT. And that's my kids and your kids. Our kids. That's why now, at the click of a finger, they can be exposed to pornography. Okay? It's so scary because they can be exposed to gambling. They're exposed to violence. All the sins that we find in the Bible, at the touch of a finger, our kids can have access to and can be influenced by. And that's why people of the same generation, if you notice, they have the same characteristics, they have the same lifestyle, they have the same habits, and we wonder, how come I am not like my children? It's because of that generation, okay? And so let's turn our Bibles to Exodus 20, verse 12. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you, okay? That's the first commandment with a promise. Okay. And so children, as children, that includes all of us here because we're all children of somebody here. What is that honor your father and mother? Number 1, children, all of our parents wants to be regarded with respect. Say respect. Okay. Let's look at Leviticus 19, verse 3. Okay. So regardless of what generation you belong to, this is what our parents long for. Leviticus 19, verse 3. Each of you must respect his mother and father, and you must observe my Sabbath. I am the Lord your God. Okay. So who should respect his mother and father? All of us. Okay? Some of us might not have a mother and father, but we might have a mother-in-law or a father-in-law. Now, if you are single, you might have a mother figure in your life or a father figure in your life, and they still need respect. One of the things that I realize is sometimes our children, as they grow old and we grow old, they take for granted the respect that is due to us. And look at what happens if part of respecting is not cursing your parents. Look at Leviticus 20, verse 19. If anyone curses his father or mother, he must be put to death. He has cursed his father or mother, and his blood will be on his own head. What does it mean when our children or a child curses his mother or father? What does it mean to be cursed? Have you been cursed by your children? Of course, nobody will say yes. Okay? I realized whenever we ask some people, how's your children? They will always say, oh, they're okay, they're doing well. Even though if a lot of us knows that their children are serving the devil. Okay? Or They will even sometimes fake it or pretend that their children are serving the Lord, even though their children are no longer serving the Lord. Okay? How do you call that? When a parent pretends, is that a pretense or is that a fantasy? Or is that lying? When you know your children are not serving God and you tell people they're okay, they're serving. They're in denial, that's the word. Okay? They're in denial. It's either they're in denial or they're lying, right? Or they're covering. Okay? It's like when you ask a parent, how is the school of your children? You will always say, oh, it's excellent. Okay? You know what, guys? I have not seen a parent who admitted that their children go to lousy schools. Rarely will you find a parent. Why? Who is to be blamed? Okay, it goes back to you. If your children goes to a lousy school, and so you will never admit that your children go to a lousy school. If you admit that your children are no longer serving God, it will go back to you. But of course, at a certain age, your children are responsible for their own actions. It's not going to be on you. Okay? And so, how does a child curse his mother or father? Because it's punishable by death. Okay? Look at Exodus 21, verse 17. Let's look at that. Anyone who curses his mother or father, what does it say? Exodus 21:17. Anyone that curses his mother or father, what does it say? Must be put to death. That means to say is it an option in those days? Okay, for the Hebrews, it's not an option, it's a must. Okay? Why? Because you're supposed to purge the evil from among them. Okay? Now, how do children curse their parents? They call down curses on their parents for destruction. You know, it's so sad. Some children actually say, sana ma-heart attack. I hope my mom or dad has a heart attack. They wish something awful or something bad will happen to their parents. It's like, what's that? It's like the witch. Is it Maleficent? She's the witch in Sleeping Beauty, right? Okay, not Jessica. Okay. She what? She pronounced a curse on Princess Aurora. That's cursing. Okay? But you know what? In modern day, everyday life, the way children curse their parents is when they say offensive words when they're angry or annoyed at their parents. Right? And whether we like it or not, our children does that to us. The problem is when we tolerate that kind of behavior. Okay. What are we supposed to do when our children are saying offensive things to us when they're angry and annoyed at us? What are we supposed to do according to the Bible? We cannot put them to death, but what can we do? Rebuke. What else? Discipline. What else? Pinaka-importante. Do not spare the rod. Right? There are some children, children, someday you will be parents. Okay? You know the principle of reaping and sowing? If you are a child that God wants you to be, you do not deserve a rebellious or a stubborn child. Okay? And so, when you're driving and you pass someone, here you cut someone, what do the drivers say sometimes when they're in road rage? Okay, the finger, what else? They curse you, right? Because they are upset. You cut them. And sometimes our children, they will not curse us the way we know it in the Philippines with a PI or whatever, but they will say offensive words or they will show an attitude that is almost like cursing. Don't do that. You know what? It's not only to our children. We are children too, right? When my mom was still alive, I used to say offensive things to my mom. And pastor will say, because I'm just on the phone, or sometimes my mom comes to the house, and he will say, he will check on my attitude. Not because we are old, we can do it to our parents. And so it says here, what children, look, how is it defined? How is a rebellious son defined? Look at Deuteronomy 21, verse 18 to 21. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who does not obey his father and mother and will not listen to them when they discipline him. So what is the definition of the Bible of a stubborn and a rebellious son? What's the definition? A child who does not obey his father and mother and does not, you're not reading your Bible, listen to them when they discipline him. That's a rebellious and a stubborn son. So you will know if you are one. Doesn't matter how old you are. Pastor Jose will always tell me, even though he is 70 and Joseph is 40, he will still discipline him when he's doing wrong. We never stop being parents, and so us likewise, never cease to be children. We will always be the children of our parents. Just because we get old, we don't stop being the child of our parents. His mother and father shall take hold of him and bring him to the elders at the gate of his town. They shall say to the elders, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He is a profligate and a drunkard. See, in those days, drunkardness, that's why you have an idea. Do you think they get drunk at 15 or 16 in those days? What do you think? Okay. The idea there is a drunkard is old, right? Old enough. But during these days, in our time, our generation, we see young people who are drunk at what? 15. How do I know? We counsel some parents from Lion's Heart before that their children are so drunk when they come home that they are vomiting all over. And they never did anything about it because they were afraid their children will leave the house. Okay? Learn from the mistake of those people. Okay? Because you have to discipline. Okay? As a child, don't get drunk because you deserve death. That's what the Bible says. Then all the men of this town shall stone him to death. You must purge the evil from among you. All Israel will hear of it. Okay? And so, like I said earlier, disobedience is a rebellious child. That's how strict the Bible says it. Okay? So it also says that, look at Deuteronomy 6 again, verse 1 to 2. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you and observe them in the land that you possess, so that you and your children and their children after you may fear the Lord your God as long as you live. And all his decrees and commands that I give you, so that you may, what's the word there? Enjoy what? Long life. So it's not only a long life, but also an enjoyable life. Children, we are supposed to give our parents, if we obey them, we expect to live long and enjoyable lives. Also, if we are obedient, we are giving them an enjoyable life and a long life, right? Hindi sila heart attack eh. They have no reason to be bitter. Okay. By the way, when we speak of respect earlier, it should not only be in public. It should be also in our homes. You know, we have children who are so respectful to their parents when they're in church or in public. But when they're in the comforts of their homes, they are so disrespectful and so disobedient. They transform when they get to the house. That's why honor and respect them. See, the honor and respect that we are supposed to give our parents is not only in lips, not only lip service, but with what as well? Open your Bibles to Matthew 15, verse 8. This is our model. Look what Jesus is saying. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far away. Their worship is a farce, for they replace God's commands with their own man-made teachings. You know, a child shows respect for his parents with their hearts. How will a child show? How do you know your child is respecting you with his heart and not just with his... You know, children will say, po, opo. Di ba, Filipinos are so respectful, but they are what? So disobedient, right? Po and opo doesn't mean anything if you will disobey. Right? I love you, Mama doesn't mean anything if you will disobey. Okay? So how do you know when a child's heart is close to his parents? How do you know? Okay, what kind of actions? Do you know David? Okay, that God is our father, right? How did God know that David is close to his heart? Or that how did he know that David, his child, is close to his heart? Because David's heart is after God's own heart. So how do we know if our children are respecting us with their hearts and not with their lips? How do we know? If they are doing what we want. After our own heart, right? David, after God's own heart. Our children, if they know Mama doesn't like this, they will not do it because it will offend Mama, it will hurt Mama. But if your child deliberately does what is offensive to you, number one, they're not after your heart. Number two, that is not respectful. They should be wanting to do your will. But of course, the obedience is limited. How? Look at Ephesians 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Okay, what is the limit of obedience to our parents? In the Lord. If your parents are asking you to do something that is a violation of God's law or God's will, then you have the option of not following. Okay? So we're talking about enjoying, right? Quality. Okay? If we children honor our parents, we will have a long life and an enjoyable life. Okay? What does that mean? That means to say we will have a good time while living on earth. We will take delight, we will receive pleasure and enjoyment. No? We will have fun with life. Life is not going to be like a drug. Okay? Whatever you like, whatever you enjoy time. How do parents know that their children are enjoying their company? When your children loves to be with you. If your children doesn't want you to be around, even when they are old, I think in enjoyment, there's no such thing as generation gap. I think enjoyment is, at home, we watch TV, even though we have different kind of enjoyable. What is enjoyable to DJ may not be enjoyable to me. Okay? But sometimes we just watch, just to try to please my kids, I watch. When was the last time I watched with you? Okay? I tried to watch. GJ, when you were small, I watched all of the Diego shows. With John, I watched all the Barney shows. I memorized all the songs, right? Then how come when we are old now, we don't watch with our kids? Right? Okay. Also, that's why one of the things I think that children should enjoy and cherish are childhood memories. Whose responsibility is it to give the kids good childhood memories? Parents. That's why we should be mindful of the memories that our children will have in their hearts. I'm so amazed at The other day we were sharing they were sharing their childhood memories. I don't even remember those things. You know, what John remembers is stabbing Joseph with a pencil. Isn't that traumatic, John, for you to remember those memories when you were fighting with Joseph? And DJ remembers the time, and I'm sure she does, when she and John had to walk and get down from the car because they were very disobedient, right? The route of Milwaukee, okay? You know, that's why even if sometimes it hurts our pockets, if they want to watch a movie, I tell myself, even if it's not in the budget, I don't want my kids to remember, kuripot ni Mama didn't let us watch. So we watch Tuesdays. Why? $5. But now it's $6 already. But I mean, a childhood memory for $6, that's better than going to DC, okay? Or the Philippines, okay? I mean, that it makes us happy when our parents tell us that, Mama, we enjoyed ourselves. You know, my kids have learned to enjoy in want and in need. Okay? When we obey our parents, we will actually end up enjoying you know, even if your parent is old, spend time with them, enjoy them while they are still alive. How can you enjoy them when they are dead? Bring them with you when you go on vacations. Okay? You know how I wish my mom and my dad are still alive. Okay? You know, that's why we have family dinners, even though it's late. Sometimes I cook dinner I get done with dinner at 10 p.m. Even if Joseph or John comes home and they've eaten, they will sit down at the table, we'll just laugh, we'll just talk, we'll tease each other. It's a family routine. Okay? I wish all the families here will do the same thing. It bonds you together. Okay? It says here, all will go well with the two of you. They will make you happy too. You know, kids, if you make life enjoyable for your parents, they will make it enjoyable for you too. It's mutual. You know, Joseph, I have so many kids. James' friends, they love coming to the house. One time they called James and said, James, we're coming to your house. James thought they were joking. They were in the front door about to ring the doorbell. Why? Because they find enjoyment in our house. No matter how messy it is, they think we're all an enjoyable family. Okay? You see, look, if you enjoy your parents, that is an advantage on your part. Because if your parents enjoy you likewise, the more you get to get the desires of your heart. I think that's the secret of my kids. They make me feel like I enjoy myself. And so when they ask something from me, do you think I can resist them? Right? That's why our kids have learned the language of how to manipulate us. But we enjoy it, right? Because it makes us happy when they are happy. And when they are happy, it makes us happy too. So we enjoy both ways. So you see how it says that you may enjoy the land? That means you will enjoy the benefits. Children, I'm telling you, give your parents an enjoyable time and you will reap the benefits. You know, if I cannot give it to them right now, I do my best to give them if they want it or they need it. If they need it, I do my best to give it. If they just want it, they can just want it. Okay, Proverbs 30, verse 17. The eye that mocks a father, that scorns obedience to a mother, will be pecked out by the ravens of the valley, will be eaten by the vultures. Okay, what is the eye that mocks a father? What is that in the Bible? We're talking about respect. What is the eye that mocks a father? Let's move up to Proverbs 30, verse 11 to 13. There are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. See? They curse their father, and they do not bless their mothers. Those who are pure in their own eyes and yet are not cleansed of their filth. Those whose eyes are ever so haughty. What is that haughtiness that the Bible is talking about? What is that haughtiness? What is a haughty person? A proud person is a haughty person. You know, that is the thing that I think all children should avoid having. Being haughty. You know, I get so hurt. No. Someone is so haughty in the family if she is so arrogant and so full of pride. You know, when your children are displaying a big attitude and that they're better than you or better than other people, you have a very haughty child right there and then. Right? You know, my children are not perfect because sometimes they act like they are better than me and Pastor Jose. They mock us. But don't let them get away with it because it becomes a habit. It becomes part of them to be haughty. Okay? When they, you know, I tell them, oh, you're better than me, but I'm still your mom. You need to listen to me. You know, in the Bible, we act as if we're better than God. Why? Because God tells us to do this, and we have our own plans. We execute our own plans because we think our plans are better than God's plans. That is pride. A haughty person acts superior and look down on others. Very overbearing, don't you hate it when your kids display so much pride? You know, I tell my kids, if you who are not even done yet with school are so full of pride, you have nothing to brag about, you still eat our food, you still sleep on our bed, you are still under our roof, what more when you can be on your own? So bloated pride. That's why it's pride comes before destruction. So have mercy on your children. If you don't want them to be destroyed, you need to be able to curb their pride. And guys, if your parents are not curbing your pride, not checking your pride, do it to yourself. Because if you don't, you are doomed for destruction. And that's what the Bible says. And everything that the Bible says is true. Okay? And so stop being haughty. No, I tell DJ sometimes because I don't know what is it with mothers and daughters. I don't know if it's just me, but I think the most differences that I have is with my daughter. And it's so sad because she's my only daughter. How about fathers? Who do you often fight with? Your sons? Nevertheless, I tell DJ sometimes, because sometimes DJ acts as if she's better than me. Well, maybe because she is. Okay? Smarter than me, maybe because you are. But I tell my daughter, DJ, wala ka pang, like I said earlier, one time, we were both fighting at home on a Sunday morning. Remember on Sundays, I minister and she ministers through worship. And so we had a big fight. So before leaving the house, she didn't even care to say, Mama, I'm sorry. One indication of pride is when your children don't know how to apologize. Okay? You know you have a very proud child if they don't apologize. And so she went to church ahead with her kuya. I went to church. So when service started, my daughter was worshiping, leading worship, and I was there. Guys, if you are fighting with someone and you are, what does the Bible say? And you're going to put an offering on. Leave your offering and, okay, fix that problem. Okay? But what happened is that I was standing here, I was trying to worship. I couldn't. When you're fighting with someone, do you feel like worshiping? Be honest, right? And so I was trying to worship. I can't even fake it. I was so, naawa ko sa sarili ko, inaaway ako ng anak ko. Okay? You know what happened? I was feeling so bad, but you know what? right after worship, my daughter came to approach me. She hugged me. You know, when you shake hands during the greeting, she approached me and she hugged me tight and she said, "Mama, I am so sorry." Because while she was leading worship, she was crying. I was worshiping. I was crying. Why? Because we know we have both offended each other. So children, no matter how bad your mom can be, no matter how wrong she can be, please learn how to apologize. Because without her or without your dad, you will not be here. If only for that. That's why God hates it when Israel became so proud. They were a nobody. But with God, they became somebody. Proverbs 4, verse 10 to 12. Okay, wala na ako. You know, guys, I have a 17-page outline. Okay? I was so inspired to write my outline. Okay, I'm cutting a lot of them, okay? So, Proverbs, we already know what cursing is. Okay. Proverbs 4, verse 18. The path of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. You know, there's this verse in the Bible that says, if you are so proud, your light will be snuffed up. That means to say you can die early. Look at Proverbs 4, verse 10 to 12. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of life will be many. I will guide you. Look what God says, I will guide you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight path. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. A godly child will also, not only will they stumble, not only will they be guided by wisdom of the Lord, but they can lead others to righteousness also. How can a rebellious child teach another rebellious child to be obedient? It will never happen. Okay? And so, another way by which you can respect your parent is blessing your parents. Another way by which you can honor your parent is blessing them. Not only praying for them or asking God's favor to be upon them, but also, guys, bless your parents materially or financially. You know, when my kids were young, I felt so good whenever I receive a handmade card during Valentine's or during Mother's Day. To this day, I cherish it. It's in my basement. My husband says, you don't throw away anything because you know why? Those are my memories when they are long gone. It doesn't have to be expensive. Because when you take care of them when they are old, you're going to profit from children. You want generous children in the future? Be generous. Why? Because generosity reaps generosity. Okay? And so, another one by which you can honor your parents is to pray for them. Okay? Pray for them. When was the last time you prayed for your mom and dad? Also, guys, a part of being cocky, being haughty, don't be cocky with your parents. Joel before preaching told me, Mama, don't use me as an illustration. But I will tell you, that's the only recent haughtiness that I remember. Joel was having a bad attitude because he thought that if he gives a big attitude, he will get what he wants. How many of your children are like that? They show you an attitude thinking they will get what they want if they show an attitude. I got so upset, I didn't spare the rod, and I let him write a long letter that, tell me why you are behaving, why did you have an attitude? And say it in the letter that you will not have an attitude anymore. So he wrote a long letter saying, Mama, please forgive me. I was having a bad attitude because I thought if I give an attitude, I will get what I want. Such honesty, right? And then he kept saying, please, please, Mama, forgive me. Please forgive me. Back and forth, please forgive me, Mama. I will not have an attitude anymore. And Joel, I kept that pad paper. Because you promised you will not have a bad attitude anymore. Okay. And so, that is one of the ways by which your children will have a haughtiness in their hearts. Okay? I mean, do not mock your parents. Don't make fun of your parents by mimicking them, to hurt them. You know, it's not bad to make fun when it's fun time. But to embarrass them in front of people, that is a different story. When it's just among family, that's okay. But to make fun of your mom or dad in front of other people, that's a different story. You know, Pastor Jose just looks at his children and they get it. That is a sign of disrespect when you make fun at the expense of your mom or your dad. I don't care how old you are or how old your mom is or your dad is, that is still not tolerable. Okay, how do you honor your mom or your dad? You honor them. How do you honor them? By caring for them. You know, in the Bible, there were parents there whom Jesus rebuked because they're saying, I cannot give money to my parents, I cannot help my parents because I already gave it to the Lord. And Jesus rebuked them for that. Don't ever say, I cannot buy my old parent grocery because I gave my tithe. Give what is due to God. Give what is due to your parents. Look after them and provide them with what is needed for their health, for their welfare. This is especially when your parents are old. For their maintenance, for their protection, for their help, and even supervise them. You know, Sister Yoli, I saw this example in Sister Yoli. Nanay is very much taken care of. You even supervise her, although nakakalusot pa rin, no? Imagine, nanay is old, but nakakalusot pa rin. Okay? But however old, you know, guys, it will be so sad if your mom is old and you are still expecting your mom to be the one to protect you, to supervise you, to babysit your kids, you know, to buy your medicines. I mean, have shame. Be a little bit embarrassed. Show more responsibility. I'm telling my kids, pastors and I, when we are old, and that's not even far off. Pastors, I'm turning, 56. I stopped counting at 40, okay? I have to deduct my year from the current year, okay? Pastor Jose is turning 58. Wow, in 2 years, he's going to be 60. So in 20 years, Pastor Jose will be 86. God willing, we're still alive. So we're telling the kids, we don't expect anything from them. God will take care of us. But please don't expect us to buy diapers of your babies or to babysit. I'm not going to babysit full time. Maybe I'm just copying my mom. Mommy did not babysit for us. My mom was in Chicago. She never babysat. She's good for babysitting for 2 hours. After 2 hours, she will call you. Nasan ka na? Why? It's not fair. They already took care of you. Don't let them babysit your children. So I tell my kids, study hard so you can afford a babysitter. You know what's the dream of my kids? My kids are telling me, you know, years from now, Mama, when we have Christmas, family gatherings, you will just sit down and we'll just have all the food catered. Wow. That will only happen if they can afford it. If they cannot afford it, they'll call me, Mama, what are you preparing for Noche Buena? Excuse me. That's why I want my daughter-in-laws to be good cooks. If they cannot afford to buy, they can cook. Okay? Watch over their welfare. When it is snowing, call your mom. Mom, do you need me to plow the snow? Don't call your mom. Mom, can you plow the snow in my house? It sounds funny, but some children do that to their parents. Dad, can you come over and plow the snow in my house? I'm so busy. Make sure there's enough heat or coldness. Show concern or interest. Care about their feelings. I mean, you're thinking of relocating. What happens to my mom and dad? And take care of them when they are sick. Because when you are sick, even if you don't need to tell them, if they know you're sick, they will take care of you. That's a mom. That's a dad. Give them this one, especially for old children. Give your parents who are older than you a sense of importance. Make them feel that you still need them, so that they will at least have a purpose in their lives. At a certain point, you guys, you children, you will be the parent. Why? Because we parents are going to get old. And we're going to need care. And I hope you will be there to provide that. Also, to honor your parents is to fulfill an obligation or an agreement. You know, remember in Genesis, where Jacob, as he was dying, what did he tell Joseph? Okay, when I die, can you bury me where my father was and my grandfather was? And what did Joseph do after his dad died? He asked permission from the Pharaoh to bring his dad, to bury his dad where his dad wanted him to be buried. Guys, you know what are your we all know as children our obligations to our parents. Don't be proud, don't be irresponsible, don't be immature. If you have to say sorry, learn to say sorry. If a 5-year-old cannot say sorry to her mom at 5 years old, do you expect him to say sorry when he is 15 years old? What more when he's 50? That's why children, don't follow the bad examples of your parents. I have so many of those. Follow the good ones, keep the good ones, trash the bad ones. And follow how God wants you to honor your mother and your father. If they will not honor you, God will still honor you. Did you learn something tonight? Let's all stand up. Praise God.